Welcome to Tycoons of Small Biz, a podcast designed for small business owners, the backbone of the American economy. Join us as our hosts Austin and Landon share insights and experiences as small business owners, active investors and operators who have started, bought, sold, and grown several successful businesses. Tycoons is powered by Backbone Planning Partners, a business consulting and wealth management firm built specifically to serve small and medium-sized businesses.
Hello, Tycoons, and welcome to today's episode of Tycoons of Small Biz. I'm your host, Austin Peterson, joined by my co-host, Landon Mance. I am in sunny San Diego this week for a conference, and the Wi-Fi we've discovered at the hotel is not perfect. So for those of you who prefer looking at me over looking at Landon, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go off video to make sure that we have good audio quality. I know that's a small percentage of people that would rather look at me versus Landon, but nonetheless, I felt like it was worth mentioning. So if this is your first time, if this is your first time listening, welcome. We're glad you're here. We've been doing this for a long, long time, and we enjoy putting out content that helps business owners. So welcome. And today we're going to talk a little bit about who, not how. If you have not read that, I would put it on your reading list right away. As an entrepreneur, that is absolutely a book that every entrepreneur should read. So Landon, why don't you kick us off a little bit, talk a little bit about kind of what we're going to talk about, what you think or like about who, not how, and I'll get my video situated here and we'll go from there.
Yep. Sounds good. Yeah. Austin is hanging out in my home city. Wish I was there with him. Some of my family still lives in San Diego. He's in the southern part of San Diego. My family's in the northern part of San Diego. So just a short, 25 or 30 minute drive, but San Diego, one of the funnest, best places to visit, living there. It's a little bit different of a story, but great place nonetheless. So like Austin alluded to, we're talking about kind of like putting this idea of who, not how into practice, hopefully giving our listeners a couple nuggets to take away and consider how they look at some of the functions of their business in regards to who can solve issues or problems or do something better than they can, and not trying to figure out actually how to solve those issues or problems. And again, if you have not read the book, it's Dr. Hardy and Dan Sullivan, I believe.
Yep.
A wonderful book. In my opinion, it is kind of one of those books that just knowing the title of it kind of can kind of capture, the essence of the book, just in the title alone. But no, I mean, it's definitely worth reading. Every entrepreneur that's building something should absolutely read the book. But, in it, essentially it is just identifying and placing people that can solve issues and problems and, like I said, do things better than you, rather than you trying to figure out those issues yourself.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Landon. I mean, it fully time to read, books. I'm an Audible guy. I tend to listen to it at a faster speed. I'll do it while I'm exercising, and I'll pick up some information that is just, a lot of times life-changing. And this is one of those that I would say can be life-changing as an entrepreneur. I think early on, we really don't have a choice as entrepreneurs when we're building a business. We kind of have to wear all those hats. We have to do all the things that we have to do to kind of get the business off the ground. But as time goes on, we have to be thinking about ways to get away from that, right? So we may have figured out a way to kind of market our business it's copying or social media or, all those types of things that we tend to kind of just figure out a way to do early on. There are a lot more efficient ways. And I think a lot of times we get wrapped up in, I can't afford that, or I'm doing it, well enough. But the reality is, if somebody can do something even 70% as well as you can, you should delegate that to somebody. And I want to be clear, it doesn't mean that you have to hire somebody full time to do those things. There are ways to outsource these things. There are ways to do projects through Upworks or Fiverr or any of those types of groups that are out there to find freelancers to do certain things for you. So it's something that needs to be a mindset change for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I just finished reading a book by Dan Martell, which is, I think it's Buy Back Your Time. Hold on, I'm just looking in my list here. I don't know where it went. Anyway, yeah, I think it's Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. You'll get a lot of good nuggets from that book as well, putting this who not how idea into practice. Really, really good, ideas in that book. So read that book as well, because that will help complement, what Dr. Hardy and Dan Sullivan wrote in Who Not How. And he's got a lot of really good practical ideas that we can all, consider as entrepreneurs that are, trying to, build towards something. It has been and it is one of Austin and I's goals for every single one of these recordings that people can walk away with like at least one, idea or thought or suggestion that it's realistic, it's attainable, and it's something that you can implement, in the business, right away. And so just as an example, Austin, I thought maybe we could talk about, our own business, Backbone Planning Partners, and our most recent hire, and, how that came about, why we decided to hire this person, kind of the backstory around what led up to it, and then, just some of the things that she is helping us with, because I feel like it's a perfect example, of who not how when it comes to the two of us as the principals of the firm.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. For those who aren't familiar with our practice, Backbone Planning Partners, we're a small boutique wealth management and business consultancy firm. We're small but mighty, I would say. I mean, we serve a decent number of clients, but we're not for every business owner out there. So just to give you the background, Landon and I are the two co-founders, and then we have two full-time staff people. And recently we brought on this, what I would call a fractional COO or director of operations, to kind of help us with our operational efficiencies. Because the reality is, Landon and I are definitely not the operations people. Pretty decent job that works well. Our clients feel like we do a good job of serving them, but we knew that we could be better. And so we kind of have been talking about this for a while, and finally somebody kind of somebody that I've known for a long time, and I've known for we helpful to us in practice. You're kind of that for our firm, so maybe you can expound upon that. But that kind of lays the groundwork.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, anybody listening live or listening to the recording, we, apologize, guys, that, the audio is just it's not great. I know we recognize, he's kind of coming in and out, but we wanted to make sure that he was part of this, discussion. So that's why we decided to keep him on audio and remove the video, and it may not be working quite as planned. So thanks for your patience. Anyway, when it comes to some of the personality profiles, Austin and I are very similar. We both tend to be more, visionary type roles. So, think big picture ideas, direction of, the firm when it comes to, sales and marketing and the other elements of the firm, and, where we're kind of growing towards. But when the rubber meets the road and it comes to the execution, of kind of scaling and growing, those are not, that's not our strong suits. Have we done it, and are we, decent at doing it? Yeah, sure. But it's not where we should be playing and spending most of our time. And so I think we both kind of came to that realization after we, compared some results from some personality profiles, and we're like, oh yeah, like we're like pretty much the same when it comes to that stuff. And so I think that's kind of like what set this off. And we came to the realization that, we're good at, business development. We're good at building relationships with other professionals and our clients. We're really good at serving the small business owner, community when it comes to doing all their, personal financial planning and wealth management, and then also, higher level strategies to help them, build better, more transferable businesses. But we really needed somebody to dig in deep to the operations of our own firm and to help us implement some, processes and systems that have already been designed with some updates and some tweaks and some, some TLC, and then design and implement some brand new ones. But probably most importantly, ensure that these new systems and processes that are being implemented and being, managed, that they are done so, and we're all kind of held accountable to these things on a going forward basis. And so that's what led to this new hire. Now, do we need somebody full time to be doing this? No, we definitely don't. I mean, we're still a pretty small team. And again, in our particular practice, we are hyper focused on, the quality of our relationships over the quantity. So we're not out there trying to bring on, 50 or 100 new clients per year. We're focused on bringing a small handful of new clients on per year. So we don't need somebody full time. And so it was a perfect fit for us to find somebody fractional that can give us about 10 to 20 hours per week. And that's what we're getting from her. And she's been working with us for, it's been about 2 months now. And we are already seeing really great results from her digging into, what we have at our disposal, what we've already designed so far, and understanding the additional capacity in the people that we have on our team, but also in the technology that we use, because we've identified that we're only utilizing our technology to, 20 to 50% of its capacity, which allows for a lot of room for growth, in those two areas, if you will.
Yeah, I agree, Landon. I think that
Austin, still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was on mute, wasn't causing them with the. I think you've done a great job of encapsulating that. I won't. Just the fact that she has helped us realize that there are multiple softwares that we have used for specific in the past can now come into one software to accomplish what 3 softwares are doing. It will be extremely beneficial to us. And that is definitely not something that is unique to us and our practice. I guarantee you there are many people listening who started using something at some point in their growth and then took on something else because they needed to solve a solution or, solve a problem. And now there's an ability to kind of consolidate, for example, the things for the practice. So that's the earliest thing that I've seen. You're working more closely with her than I am. And so, there may be other things that you've seen, but I think that's a great example of just somebody with an outside perspective saying, really this software over here can do all 3 of those things. Have you considered using it instead?
Yeah, for sure. So let's just in the remaining, call it 10 minutes that we have. So let's talk about like the framework that we believe works for executing on this whole concept of who, not how. So I'll kind of lay it out, and then Austin, if you've got any remarks to add, then you can, and then we'll kind of wrap up here in about 10 minutes because I know we've got some other obligations, at the top of the hour. All right, so as you're considering this concept of essentially not necessarily replacing yourself, but replacing a specific responsibility or a duty or a set of duties that you have. Here's the framework that has worked well for us, that we've helped kind of our clients kind of implement. And it's relatively simple. So it's, sitting down and spending a meaningful amount of time, maybe it's an hour or 2 a day for a couple weeks in a row, or whether you're the type of person that really wants to try to knock something out in one sitting. So maybe sitting down for, a handful of hours in a nice quiet room with a pen and a piece of paper, or, just your thoughts and your laptop. And that is essentially jotting down every single thing that you do in your business. And I mean everything, from checking your email to ordering office supplies to meeting with clients to preparing proposals to getting on sales calls to help close, whatever, like every single thing that you do, like jotting those down in a list and then trying to kind of compartmentalize those into a few different compartments so that there's relevance in how you sort them. And then the next step is figuring out like, okay, I've kind of sectioned these off into these groups, and I've got all the duties and the tasks that fall under the same category. And the next step would be considering which of these are relatively low risk for me to give to somebody else. And I say relatively low risk because we all know as entrepreneurs that giving up control of certain things can be, unsettling to say the least sometimes. But if you're trying to grow and you're trying to scale, this is literally the only way to do it. So you have to get past that fear and that uncertainty. And hopefully this framework will help alleviate some of that. So you identify this set of tasks or duties that are relatively low risk to you, and you decide that, that's where you're going to start. And so the next step is, okay, who am I going to delegate these to? And you've got essentially 2 options. One is internal and 2 is external. Ideally, you want to start internally. So maybe you have an assistant or a mid-level operations person, or somebody in the administrative side of the business that has a little bit of additional capacity. And you can't just throw this stuff on to them. It doesn't work like that. You've got to put some thought into writing up some kind of a methodology or a process around how you actually execute on these things that you are going to pass over to this person. Then once you've got that, documented in writing, now it's time to actually, pick them up, off of your desk or your shoulders or your task list, and to set them, onto somebody else's. So you've identified who the person is. You've jotted down some clear instructions on how to do these things in writing. And then now you're gonna shift these over to this person, and you're gonna spend time with them so that they are very clear as to like what successful looks like for them to start doing these things, so that they know, as you continue to work with them and make progress with them and monitor them, that they know what their marching orders are and they know what successful is going to look like. And you got to put some kind of a time frame on it as well, because that's how they are able to gauge whether or not they're doing a good job. All right. So you've identified the tasks, you've documented them, you've identified the person that is going to start handling these, and now you're off to the races. So hopefully you've armed them with enough information to get started. Our suggestion is going to be set up a weekly time, same day, same time, for at least 15 to 30 minutes, and meet with this person to review their progress. And other than that, give them the leeway and the space that they need to figure some stuff out on their own. And you also need to give them some grace as they try to figure stuff out, so that they can make mistakes, but they can also feel comfortable and confident that you have given them permission to make these mistakes. And you're also like setting the expectation that, hey, you're going to make some mistakes doing this. That's okay. I'm going to meet with you once a week for 15 or 30 minutes, and we're going to figure some of this stuff out together. Something that's really important, though, is that when you meet with them for this standing weekly meeting, that you are not allowing them to take the monkey off their back and to put it back onto yours. Okay, so what do I mean by that? When somebody comes to you with an issue or a problem or a concern or a fear around these new duties that you've given to them, it's natural human instinct for them to try to throw the monkey on their back to you so that you can solve it and you can move forward. And you have to refrain from doing that. So the way that you refrain from doing that is, let's say that somebody comes in and says, let's say they come in and say, hey, Sarah, I'm really struggling with this, management of your calendar. And, you've set these parameters on when I can schedule different calls, but, really you're kind of all over the place in your calendar. So I don't know when to schedule this. So can you just kind of take this, small element of the calendar management back, because I don't seem to be able to figure it out with your hectic schedule, right? So you got to like sit back and pause and, say, well, okay, let's talk about that. Tell me what suggestions that you have in order to make this easier and more manageable for you. And then shut your mouth and let them respond, because most likely they're going to have some really good ideas that you need to consider. All right. So I know I've been talking for 10 or 12 minutes. Let me pause there. Austin, anything you want to add here in the last minute or two before we wrap this up?
Done a really good job of explaining the process, how to do it, and really you're talking about things you're doing the business owner, the whatever title it. I don't know that I would add anything. I mean, I think you really encapsulate that well. I'll just mention, maybe just kind of mention a couple of things. Ultimately, this should, over an extended period of time, lead to you starting to delegate everything actually most beneficial for the company, right? Like, I know what I do that's most beneficial for the company. I know that Landon, my business partner, knows what I do that's most beneficial to the company. And we have a plan for getting us to the point where that's all I'm doing for the company, because that is what's going to lead our company to be the most successful going forward. So in your mind, that's where you've got to be leading to, and you're doing it step by step, like Landon mentioned, right? What's the least cumbersome or the least disruptive to the business that I can start to delegate and start to kind of build a plan for that. But ultimately, you want to get to where you're only doing for the company what you are absolutely the best at and what the company benefits the most from. Okay. So this has just kind of been a real quick explanation of who, not how, the importance of delegation, offloading things. The reality is we're doing a full webinar on this where we will go into a much deeper dive on August 27th. It's called The Delegator, the Achilles heel of business owners. This is something that most business owners struggle with big time. So if you're interested in learning more about this, you want to join our webinar, the link is on all of our social media channels at Backbone Planning on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find all the information there. We'd love to have you join us for that webinar.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, for sure. Yep. August 27th, the Delegator webinar. Some really good content put out by a company that we partner with called Value Builder that puts out exceptional content to small and medium-sized businesses to just help them build better, more transferable businesses, which is what we're all about. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you August 27th for the Delegator webinar. Other than that, thanks for joining us. To your success, and make it a great day.
Listening to Tycoons of Small Biz, a podcast for small business owners by small business owners. Be sure to follow us on our social media channels for links to all our episodes and great content around growing, investing in, buying, and selling small businesses. This podcast is distributed for informational purposes only. Statements made in the podcast are not to be construed as personalized investment or financial planning advice, may not be suitable for everyone, and should not be considered as solicitation to engage in any particular investing or planning strategy. Listeners should conduct their own review and exercise judgment, or consult with their professional financial advisor to see how the information contained in this podcast may apply to their own individual circumstances. All investing involves risk of loss, including the possible loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results, and nothing in this podcast should be construed as a guarantee of any specific outcome or profit. All market indices discussed are unmanaged, do not incur management fees, costs, and expenses, and cannot be invested into directly. Investment advisory services offered by Backbone Planning Partners, LLC. Neither Backbone Planning Partners, LLC, nor its representatives provide legal or accounting advice. The content of this podcast represents the views and opinions of Austin Peterson and Landon Mance, and/or the podcast guest, and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Backbone Planning Partners, LLC. Statements made in this podcast are subject to change without notice. Neither Backbone Planning Partners, LLC